Hello everyone, my name is Serafi and I'm happy to meet you all. And today we're going to be playing True Dracos. True Dracos is a fun deck I've been climbing with. I managed to get to Plat 3 tonight on stream, which is pretty solid since I've only been playing the deck for like 2 days. And I feel like this is a deck that's rewarding to learn. Even if you don't like the deck, it's important for you to understand how floodgates, timing, and interaction work. So I think that if you want to become a better player, you should definitely try this deck out, just so you can understand what it's like to be on the stun end, and that can help you exploit stun weaknesses for your own games. So the main draw of this deck is that there's no extra deck, which means that you have less cards to craft, and so therefore there's only one ultra rare. We're not playing any hand traps because, well, True Dracos don't really function very well with hand traps. They need like a lot of cards in their opening hand, and then they tend to not really draw too much afterwards. So you really don't want to brick your hand on cards like Ash Blossom because you don't have 1-card combos in this deck. You have 5-card combos. So because of that, the deck is cheap, it's effective, it's really easy to build, and I recommend trying it if you have a little bit of dust laying around. For the main deck, we are playing Majesty Maiden, the True Draco Caster. This is a level 5 Wyrm, Wind, 2300 attack, 1500 defense. To tribute summon this card, you contribute a continuous spell or trap you control instead of a monster. This is an effect that all of the True Dracos share. So you contribute summon them by attributing spells or traps in addition to monsters. And you don't need to... the continuous trap does not need to be face up on the field. So even if your opponent doesn't know that you have a continuous trap face down, you can still tribute it because it will end up as public knowledge in your graveyard. So it's not like you can cheat and say, oh, this heavy storm is a continuous trap. Your opponent can see that you tributed a heavy power sink stone, so they can't argue with it. So that's why you can do that. As a soft once per turn, because all of them have a soft once per turn effect. When your opponent activates a card or effect while you control this tribute summon monster, as a quick effect, you can add one True Draco or True King monster from your deck to your hand. So Majesty Maiden is our main starter because she draws us a Masterpiece. Great card, played at 3. Next up, we are playing Ignis Heat, the True Draco Warrior. This is a level 5 Fire Wyrm monster with 2300 attack and 1000 defense. To tribute summon this card face up, you contribute a continuous spell or trap you control instead of a monster. Once per turn, when your opponent activates a card or effect while you control this tribute summon monster, you can take one True Draco or True King continuous spell from your deck and either activate it or add it to your hand. So you can activate a continuous spell during your opponent's turn. That's not all that useful. None of your continuous spells have a quick effect. That's why we're only playing this card at 1. But in particular, it's pretty nice to get like your Disciples of True Draco Phoenix so that you can draw 1 card. You know, it can be very useful to get an extra draw on your turn. So this card is a, we do want to have a certain number of monsters. We're playing 10 monsters total because we want to open a monster usually. And Ignis Heat is okay. Dynamite Knight, the True Draco Fighter. This is where we get some good stuff. Level 6, 2500 attack, 1200 defense, Water Wyrm monster. To tribute summon this card, you could tribute a continuous spell or trap you control instead of a monster. Once per turn, when your opponent activates a card or effect while you control this tribute summon monster, as a quick effect, you can take one True Draco or True King continuous trap card from your deck and either activate it or add it to your hand. Now we're talking. So being able to activate a trap card during your opponent's turn is huge. So we have True King's Return and True Draco Apocalypse, and these 2 cards will allow us to easily influence the game and really hit our opponent where it hurts. And in fact, Dynamite Knight and Majesty Maiden, for that matter, both these cards often give us the 6th card we need for our opening hand to actually make any plays. That's how expensive the deck is resource-wise, which is why you can't afford to play any hand traps. Next up, we have Masterpiece, the True Draco Slaying King. This is a level 8 light Wyrm monster with 2950 attack and defense. To tribute summon this card face up, you contribute continuous spells or traps you control as well as monsters. This card is unaffected by cards with the same card type, monster, spell, and or trap, as the original card type for the cards tributed for its tribute summon. Okay, what does that mean? So, if you tribute, for example, your True Draco Heritage and your Power Syn Stone, then as long as Masterpiece, the True Draco Slaying King, remains face up on the field, it is unaffected by all spells and all traps from both players. That is a very powerful effect, and the primary reason why Masterpiece was banned for as long as it was is because of interactions like we have in this deck, where you play a bunch of floodgate traps to try and stop any player from doing anything, and then because you attributed a trap card to summon Masterpiece, the True Draco Slaying King, your Masterpiece is unaffected by your own floodgates. This becomes very dangerous, because the main reason that floodgates can be allowed to exist in the game at all is because they're double-sided. Yes, there are decks that try and use skill drain as an advantage, like Goblin Attack Force type decks, but for the most part, when you're playing a deck that uses cards like skill drain and Power Syn Stone, you are having to either play very specific cards or you are negatively impacted by the effect, which is why a lot of floodgates don't see a lot of play. A lot of floodgates either see play only in stall or control decks, or in decks where they can circumvent the restriction for this very reason. Masterpiece is not like other cards that can circumvent effects. Cards like, for example, Rainbow Dragon, that have 4,000 attack points and no real effect. They don't really care about skill drain. Cards like what are they called? Malefics, the Malefic monsters, where they don't really have any good effects, and in fact all their effects are negative to compensate for the fact that they're easily special summonable 4,000 attack beaters. That is not a deck that will really do much of anything, to be honest. But Masterpiece, the True Draco Slaying King, is not a beater monster that just wins the game with raw stats. It has effects, and those effects are very dangerous. So the fact that this monster not only can continuously activate its effects and is unaffected by floodgates, but is also unaffected by your opponent's cards and has a powerful removal effect, makes it a very, very difficult card for most decks to deal with. So, how do you play this card? You will typically tribute your Majesty Maiden that you use to search it, along with any of your continuous traps to summon it, and then it is unaffected by both monster effects and trap card effects. Now, it will still be affected by spells, but for the most part, people play spells to search and set up their board. Not too many people are playing spells as removal. Yes, you can play a card like Lightning Storm or Dark Hole, but those cards are few and far between. And they're usually pretty telegraphed. Alright. Once per turn, if you control this tribute summon monster, as a quick effect, you can banish one continuous spell or trap card from your graveyard, target one other card on the field, and destroy it. This effect does target, so that can be a little bit of a drawback. But primarily, you're going to use this card to destroy your opponent's monsters, which is pretty useful, and you can also pop any annoying spell or trap cards. Now, it's important to note that the main way that you lose your Masterpiece, and I cannot stress this enough, the main way that Masterpiece ends up getting destroyed in real time is the fact that it only has 2950 attack points. So, a lot of monsters, a lot of boss monsters, a lot of monsters like, for example, Kashtira Riseheart, Kashtira Kaleidaheart, Scareclaw Trihearts, Blue Eyes White Dragon, Chengying. A lot of monsters have exactly 3,000 attack points. So you need to keep that in mind and try and keep your Masterpiece away from any sort of dangerous threats, because people will just beat over it, and that's the drawback. Next up, we have Ankama Frite. Cannot be normal summoned or set. Must be special summoned from your extra deck by having no cards in your extra deck except Ankama Frite. You can only special summon this Ankama Frite once per turn this way. If this face-up card in the monster zone leaves the field, banish it. Okay, so Ankama Frite can't be normal summoned and has to be special summoned from your extra deck. How do you get it in your extra deck? With its Pend effect. Pend effect, if you have no cards in your extra deck except Ankama Frite, you can destroy this card, then draw one card. So Ankama Frite, pop it, draw a card, special summon it, then you can use it as tribute fodder. It's great. It's a good card. The main reason we're not playing 3 is because it's not good if we have more than one in our hand. Pot of Duality, excavate the top 3 cards of your deck, add one of them to your hand, and also after that, shuffle the rest back into your deck. Okay, you can only activate one Pot of Duality per turn, and you cannot special summon the turn you activate this card. Now, that's important. You might think that you never special summon with this deck. That is not true. There are 2 times that you special summon. Number 1, Ankama Frite. Number 2, and Apophis, but you're not typically an Apophis on your own turn. Number 2 is with True King's Return. So, do not activate your Pot of Duality if you have to use either one of these effects. In particular, I had a game where I could not Pot of Duality because I had to special summon Ankh Mafrite from my extra deck because, well, if I left Ankh Mafrite in my extra deck, I would not be able to activate the Monarch's Erupt. So I had to Ankh Mafrite first, and then I had to wait for my Duality until the turn afterwards. And it was fine. Pretty sure I won that game. Pot of Desires, banish the top 10 cards of your deck face down, draw 2 cards. You can only activate 1 Pot of Desires per turn. This card's fine. If it was unlimited, we would play it at 3. You know, who cares what you banish, as long as you don't banish exactly 2 Masterpiece, you'll win the game. Dragonic Diagram. This is a great field spell. All True Draco and True King monsters on the field gain 300 attack and defense points. This will make your Masterpiece have 3250, which means that it can beat over a monster with 3000 attack points. That is very important. However, it will not work if you tribute a spell card to summon Masterpiece. So if you have to tribute a continuous spell card to summon Masterpiece, it is unaffected by spell cards, including the buffing effect of Dragonic Diagram. Keep that in mind. The first time each tribute summoned True Draco or True King monster would be destroyed by battle each turn, it is not destroyed. That is a fantastic protection effect. Thank you very much. Once per turn, you can destroy 1 other card you control or in your hand, and if you do, add 1 True Draco or True King card from your deck to your hand. It's very nice that this does not have to be a True Draco or True King card. You will oftentimes destroy cards that you don't need, like, for example, if you have multiple negates, you'll destroy 1 of them so that you can have your Floodgate, but also have cards to use it with. You can destroy Clockwork Knight, you can destroy Syn Stone, you know, you can destroy Monarch's Erupt if you drew 2 of them, and you draw your Masterpiece and you win the game. Great card. It's important to note, the main drawback of this card, by far, is that it is a field spell, and is not a continuous spell. So, when you activate this card during your opening hand, you need to use it to search. You play this card from your hand, you pop another card in your hand, you draw the card that you want, which is probably a card that you have to tribute summon for, and then you have already used 2 cards. So you have the monster that you need to tribute with, and then you have 3 cards left to both set up your tribute summon and also try and control the board. So that's the main problem with Dragonic Diagram. Since it can't be used as tribute fodder itself, if you have Dragonic Diagram and you have to rely on it, you're going to be in a worse position than if you just had Majesty Maiden. But it's a good card. Play it at 3. True Draco Heritage. During your main phase, you can draw cards equal to the number of True Draco and True King card types, monster, spell, and trap sent from the field to the graveyard this turn. During your main phase, you can immediately, after this effect resolves, tribute summon 1 True Draco monster in attack position. And then if this card is sent from the spell and trap zone to the graveyard, you can target 1 spell or trap on the field and destroy it. Okay, so the True Draco, True King spells and traps all work the same. The spells let you tribute summon during your turn, and the traps let you tribute summon during your opponent's turn. The spells will pop a spell or trap when they're sent to the graveyard. The traps will pop a monster when they're sent to the graveyard. True Draco Heritage lets you draw up to 3 cards if you've sent a monster, spell, and trap to the graveyard this turn. It's a pretty useful effect on turn 1, but then afterwards you're basically going to tribute the True Draco Heritage to summon. So it's an okay effect to make sure that you don't run out of cards, but it's not really going to be all that useful. And then being able to pop a spell or trap if you go second is pretty nice. Disciples of the True Draco Phoenix. You can target 3 True Draco or True King cards in your graveyard, shuffle them into the deck, and then draw 1 card. And then the other 2 effects, you can get a free tribute summon, and you also pop a spell or trap if it goes to the graveyard. This is okay. Typically, you don't want to shuffle that many cards back from your graveyard into your deck because you need them in your graveyard for Masterpiece. This is the card that I triggered the least when I was playing the deck, and mostly use it for tribute fodder. Clockwork Knights. All face-up monsters on the field become machines. Machines you control gain 500 attack and defense. Also, machines your opponent controls lose 500 attack and defense. That's hilarious. So this gives you some much-needed power for your monsters so that you can beat over your opponent. Basically, it's very similar to how Monarchs rely on the domain of the True Monarch so that they can like win battles, but only on their turn. This card allows you to basically win battles with the extra 500 attack points, and now 500 attack points your opponent loses. It's also important to note that making all of your opponent's monsters machines can be very detrimental to them. A lot of decks do rely on typing for things like being able to qualify for link materials or exceed materials. So, yes, it can be very disruptive to your opponent for their monsters to all suddenly be machines, if they didn't expect it. Still, this is a card that is not synergistic with the rest of the deck, so since it is a continuous spell, it will often be destroyed for your Dragonic Diagram or tributed just to summon Majesty. Skill Drain. Activate this card by paying 1,000 life points. Negate the effects of all face-up monsters while they are face-up on the field, but their effects can still be activated. Skill Drain is an interesting idea. It's a very powerful card. If it was at 3, I would play it at 3. It's important to note how Skill Drain works with this deck. If you activate Skill Drain before you summon your Majesty, your Masterpiece, the True Draco Slaying King, all of Masterpiece's effects are negated before it can become unaffected. That's weird. That's a weird restriction, but that's how it works. In the same way that you can, could negate Masterpiece's summoning with a trap card, even if it was unaffected by traps, because it hasn't technically hit the field yet. Skill Drain basically makes it so that no monster that enters the board has an effect. So before the monster has even been summoned, if Skill Drain was already face up on the field, it has no effect. So that's why you have to keep aware of that. So if you have Skill Drain, make sure that you summon your Masterpiece before you activate Skill Drain. It's a good card, though. This card will win you games, straight up. Good card. Summon Limit. Neither player can summon more than 2 times per turn. Interestingly enough, this can stop you from doing some things because you might need to summon from the graveyard with your trap card and then also tribute twice. But that's pretty rare, and it will require you to already have cards in your graveyard and still have enough cards left to do multiple tribute summons, which you typically don't. You typically run out of resources really fast. But it is the possibility, so keep that in mind. This card is just really, really good to stop your opponent from doing anything. So yeah. Power Syn Stone. Each time a monster effect is activated, place 1 Spellstone counter on this card. When that effect resolves, maximum 2. While this card has 2 Spellstone counters, neither player can activate the effects of face-up monsters on the field. Also, the effects of face-up monsters on the field are negated. Once per turn during the end phase, if this card has any Spellstone counters, remove them. Okay, so Power Syn Stone is the only card that we have to worry about that that can affect your Masterpiece. Like, of course, Skill Drain can affect it if it was summoned first hand, but Power Syn Stone affects you, the player. It does not affect your Masterpiece. So if you activate Power Syn Stone and then you want to use your Masterpiece's pop effect to destroy a card on your opponent's side of the field, you have to use it before you put 2 spell counters on this, and your opponent is also using spell counters. So you wait for your opponent to activate something, then you activate Masterpiece in response. That puts the second counter on it. After that, no more monster effects. Now, technically speaking, if your opponent responds to Masterpiece being activated by activating their own monster effect as a third card, you don't have to worry about Masterpiece being negated because Masterpiece is unaffected. So Masterpiece can activate its effect if you would have a counter placed on it at the end of the chain. But you can't declare the activation of the effect if you already have 2 counters on it. So it's a weird interaction. I'm going too deep into this, but just be careful when you're playing this card. The Monx Erupt. Activate this card only if you have no cards in your extra deck and you control a tribute summon monster. Negate the effects of all face-up monsters on the field while those monsters are face-up on the field except tribute summon monsters. Wow. How do I even describe this? You have to activate this card when you have no cards in your extra deck, which means you have to summon Unaffected the turn that you use its effect, and you can't play anything in your extra deck. If you control a tribute summon monster, so you just flip this during the draw phase. All monsters on the field are negated, except for tribute summon monsters. Now you might say, well, what about monsters that you summon from the graveyard? Well, none of those monsters have their effects anyway, because all of the True Draco monsters require that they be tribute summoned to even use their effects. So if you special summon them from the graveyard with your True King's Return, they didn't have any effects anyway. So this is a great card. Now, if your opponent destroys your tribute summon monster, the Monx Erupt does not go to the graveyard. The Monx Erupt goes to the graveyard during your end phase if you control no tribute summon monsters. So it will continuously negate all monster effects that are not tribute summon monsters as long as you can continuously summon at least 1 tribute summon monster per turn, which you usually can. So this is great. This is great. It's basically Skill Drain. Lose 1 turn. Activate only if you currently control no special summon monsters. Got to be careful with that part. So if you start your opponent's turn and you have a special summon monster in your field like Unaffected or a monster you revive with True King's Return, you cannot activate Lose 1 turn at all. While a monster is face up on the field, negate its effects during the turn that monster was special summoned, and if an effect monster is special summoned in attack position, change it to defense position. So this is a very useful effect. It basically stops everything. It's important to note that unlike the Power Syn Stone, and well, unlike no, I mean actually these cards just negate effects, right? Yeah. So these cards negate effects, which means that they not only negate like activations, but they negate passive ongoing effects. Like for example, Yubel's ability to avoid being destroyed in battle gets negated by lose one turn. So yeah, really cool. This card's great. True King's Return. If this card is sent from the spell and trap zone to the graveyard, you can target one monster on the field and destroy it. You cannot activate the following effects of True King's Return in the same chain. You can target one True Draco or True King monster in your graveyard, special summon it in defense position. Also, for the rest of the turn, you cannot special summon. Okay? So it prevents you from special summoning for the rest of the turn. That's important because it means that you can't use Apophis after you use True King's Return. But you can use Apophis beforehand. During your opponent's main phase, you can immediately after the effect resolves, tribute summon one True Draco or True King monster face up. Great. So, free tribute summon during your opponent's turn, tribute the masterpiece, tribute the True King's Return as part of it, and then since it was sent to the graveyard, you get to destroy a monster on the field. Excellent. True Draco Apocalypse. If this card is sent from the spell and trap zone to the graveyard, you can target one monster on the field and destroy it. You can activate the following effects of True Draco Apocalypse in the same chain. You can target one other True Draco or True King card you control, destroy it, and if you do, this is important, if you do, and also Dragonic Diagram has this as well, then the all face-up attack and defense position and monsters your opponent currently controls become half permanently. Okay, so you have to destroy the card, you have to successfully destroy the card that you are targeting with both Dragonic Diagram and True Draco Apocalypse to get the search or the attack halving. That means that if your masterpiece, the True Draco Slaying King, is unaffected by card effects, you can't target it with the cards that it's unaffected by and cheat their effects, because they say that you have to destroy the monster for the other effects to resolve. Keep that in mind. During your opponent's main phase, you can immediately, after this effect resolves, tribute summon your masterpiece. Cool. Last card, Apophis, the Swamp Deity. This is a continuous trap card. It's super rare. During the main phase, you can special summon this card as a normal monster, 2,000 attack, 2,200 defense. That is still a trap. Then you can negate the effects of face-up cards your opponent controls up to the number of other continuous traps you control until the end of the turn. So, Apophis is really useful, primarily to negate spells. So, one of the big problems that we have is that we negate a bunch of monster effects, we're immune to trap cards, but what do we do about spells that can be really annoying? Well, if your opponent tries to Lightning Storm you, or if they try to play a card like Red Eyes Fusion, you can activate your Apophis' effect to special summon itself, and then as long as you control at least one other continuous spell, which you usually will, you can then negate a face-up spell, and that goes to the graveyard, and it's done for the turn. So, excellent, excellent card. 2 is probably enough, and I love it. Alright. That is the deck. Let's take a look at the replay. All right, we are going second against Branded. We do not have Masterpiece in our opening hand. Opponent activates Foolish Burial, pitches the Despian Tragedy. Tragedy effect, grab Aluber. Normal summon Aluber, grab Branded Fusion. Yay, this is fun. Branded Fusion, pitch Fallen of Albaz and Bestial Rebellion to make Albion. Albion effect, make Mirror Jade. Opponent activates Brandon and High Spirits, reveal Fallen of Albaz, pitch the Titaniclad to draw Springen's Kit. Springen's Kit can special summon itself. Activate the effect. Add Branded in White. Pitch a card. Branded in White effect. Fuse. To make Rinbrum the Striking Dragon. Now, let's pause for a second here. Let's read this card. Fallen of Albaz plus a Beast, Beast Warrior, Winged Beast monster. When a Fusion, Synchro, Exceeds, or Linked monster's effect is activated as a quick effect, you can negate that effect, then you can return one monster on the field to the hand. I have no extra deck. He sets one. Alright, Titaniclad effect, he gets to add Fallen of Albaz to his hand, and pass. Alright, it's our turn. I'm going to start things off by activating Unaffected, pop it to draw a card. Then we'll special summon Unaffected, and our opponent shotguns the Mirror Jade, pitching the Sprint of the Iron Dash Dragon to banish the Unaffected. Sprint the Iron Clash Dragon. If this card is sent to the graveyard, is in the graveyard because it was sent there this turn, you can add to your hand or special summon one Springen's monster or one Fallen Valbaz from your deck. Okay. We activate Dragonic Diagram. Use its effect to destroy Syn Stone, add Masterpiece. Set one and tribute it for the Dynamite Knight and set the lose turn. Now we're going to attack Rinbrum the Striking Dragon. Our opponent is going to activate Fusion Duplication. Target a fusion or polymerization normal or quick play spell in either player's graveyard. Banish that spell, then apply that spell's effect when this card is activated. Okay, so he's gonna he's gonna Brighten Fusion again. He activated a card effect, so we're gonna activate Dynamite's effect, which means that we get to activate a trap card from our deck. We're gonna activate the True King's Return. He fuses the Fallen Valbaz in his hand with the Rinbrum the Striking Dragon to make Lubellion. Okay. We will attack the Lubellion. He's going to use Rinbrum's effect to banish the second Fallen Valbaz so that he can special summon his Rinbrum. We're just going to go ahead and destroy that. And we pass. He's going to add Brandon High Spirits back to his hand. And Spring, get back the Springen's Kit. Okay. It's our opponent's turn. Now our opponent uses Mirror Jade's effect last turn, which means they can't use it this turn. We activate Lose One Turn. Despian Tragedy, banish it from graveyard, target a branded trap, and add it to the set it face down. We're going to activate the effect of True Draco Fighter so that we can play a trap from our deck, and then we're also going to activate the effect of True King's Return so we can tribute both True King's Return and True Draco Fighter in order to summon Masterpiece, the True Draco Slaying King. The chain resolves. Then we can activate True King's Return since we sent it to the graveyard as tribute fodder to destroy Mirror Jade. The opponent is going to chain Brandon High Spirits. Revealed Cartesia. Pitch the Grand Guignol. He's going to activate Mirror Jade's effect so that he can destroy all of our cards all of our monsters at the end of the turn. Special summon the Springen's Kit. Springen's Kit effect, but it's negated from lose a turn. Brandon White. Fuse 3. 2 in hand and 1 2 on the field, 1 in the hand to make Guardian Chimera. 3,300 attack points. It's going to be able to destroy 2 cards on the field to draw a card, but we have lose 1 turn, so that doesn't work. Negated. Switch into defense position. Masterpiece's effect. Banish a card from the graveyard. Pop it. Eluber effect. Since a fusion monster was destroyed, target 1 effect monster the opponent controls, special summon this card, and if you do, negate the targeted monster's effects until the end of the turn. So he's trying to negate Masterpiece, but Masterpiece is unaffected by monster effects. Then he activates Mirror Jade's effect to destroy all monsters I control. Can't be destroyed by can't be affected by monster effects. He adds the Blazing Cartesia back to his hand. We'll activate True King's Return during the end phase to special summon our True Draco Fighter, and it's our turn. We draw. We drew the Monx Erupt. That's insane. Activate the field spell. Pop the other field spell to add the Majesty Tribute. Then special summon the monster we tributed back from the graveyard. Battle. Destroy both of his monsters. And it's the opponent's turn. He doesn't have many cards left. Draw. Normal summon the Cartesia. We activate the Monx Erupt, so all of his monsters are negated, and he concedes. There you go. So that is the ability to just stall out a very powerful meta deck with, control. If you don't want to play a bunch of combo pieces and you don't want to play a bunch of expensive cards, you can play a control deck. And this is a deck that I think will be very useful to you. My name is Serafi, and I was thrilled to have all of you with me.